Thanks again and again and again for creating the time to be part of the program Politics Today on independent television and radio. And that's because it's a simulcast. I want to thank all our viewers and listeners across the world. Welcome on board the show. In today's program, it literally will be reflections on Nigeria at 64, looking at the challenge of democracy and weak institutions, and then, of course, the impact of leadership. 64 years down the line, we're still talking about imperfect elections or elections that are, fraught with irregularities, particularly with some of the critical stakeholders and institutions of government who ought to give some fillip to such processes. We're still talking about abject poverty, living below the poverty index of about $1 per day. We're still talking about poor health facilities. We're still talking about bad roads. I mean, if you say bad road, it probably will be an understatement. I just like the words right now to describe the state of our roads. We can just go on and on and on and on. And then you're wondering, with the avalanche of resources available to a country like Nigeria, we are still where we are today. If you look at some of the jingles played in elections in years gone by, you still would hear things like, we heard things like roads, electricity, water, healthcare, education, agriculture, and all of that. 64 years down the line, these same challenges are still there with us as a people. So that's the major thrust of our conversation today. We'll have time, we'll look at the unending crisis rocking Rivers State. There's supposed to be a local government election today. We don't know what's the state of that. Before the weekend, the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, was talking tough, saying all kinds of things about the poor handling of the situation, particularly by the IGP. Of course, we know that this crisis is connected with the friction between former governor Ian Wike and the incumbent governor, Siminalayi Fubara. All of these and lots more will focus on the show today. As usual, our studio line will be open so you can also call and be part of the conversation. Let me welcome our panelists here. Dr. Patrick Awo Osage is a lawyer and public affairs commentator and also an educator and a pastor. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Awo Osage.
It's a pleasure for having me. Thank you for having me.
We also have here former NBA Benin branch chairman, Barrister Ede Asenongwan. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Sonny, and thank you, viewers and listeners at home.
We also have with us a constitutional lawyer, is also a clergy, Barrister Greg Iyayi. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning, Sonny. Good morning, viewers all over the world.
Okay, let me start off with Dr. Patrick Awo Osage. 64 years down the line, we're still looking at the issues of the impact of democracy in Nigeria. We're looking at the issue of weak institution. We're looking at the issue of poor leadership. All of this cascading into the realities that we have today. What's your thoughts?
Thank you very much. Nigeria as a nation have come a long way. And I know there was a time down in our history where the then head of state, Yakubu Gowon, said the only problem we have as a country is how to spend the money. He even went to a particular country to pay off 6 months striking workers' salaries at the time because we didn't have anything to do with money. It's still the same way our leadership had been. Every supposed leader come on board, whether through military coup d'etat or electoral process like we have today. It's all about me, myself, and I, the folks around me, my friends. I remember former governor of Kaduna State addressing the Senate by saying, who will you give contracts to? It's not your friends. Forgetting people like men like Fajuyi, who stood out and reprimanded his younger sister for bringing a certificate of incorporation because he was military administrator. He tore it openly. Why will you do this? We are not here for our family. We are here for the state. You know, that's basically the problem. We've gotten it all wrong from the very onset. We saw the marriage between the then head of states. It became something else, like a carnival. I'm talking of Victoria Gowon and Gowon, you know. It was something else. I read some of these things and I wonder what we were thinking. Awolowo won this country in 1977 when they were trying to do the first act projecting the black dignity of the black man all over the world. And they said, let's invest in technology, let's have something more. They said, you go and sit down, and I think we're all facing it today. It's still the same narrative. You see, you just mentioned, I remember leaving school, June 12th, where they were going. No road, we had a campaign, no lights, no road, the same narrative, is the same thing every successive government will come to. It's just like a way to come in, because these guys run their businesses successfully. And they really don't have that patriotism for the country. I think it's lack of patriotism. And that is where we find ourselves. So in getting out of these muddy waters, it's going to be a little bit of an equilibrium tax. All hands must be on deck and desire to really do the right thing. And if you look at it, you've mentioned you've already said most of these things, weak institutions. You look around, somebody who is head is Joseph Stanley, I will continue to cite him, that said, you know, if you have the one that controls those that count the election is the one that decides who wins. So who controls them? So is the INEC, we say independent elect, are they really independent of their own? Are they really conducting elections the way they should? Why should they violate electoral acts by doing certain things within? They say, well, they are their own frolic, let's go to court and argue this. Like I keep saying, I don't enjoy the idea that I file fundamental rights in the courts for clients. Why? These are things law enforcement should know. You should not wait for me to go and enforce it in court for court to say. Even at times, court give rulings and judgments. The executive will don't want to go. I know some persons that have gotten bail application, you know, by court and granted them bail, and yet they are still held in facilities of the correctional center or whatever DSS as it were. So these are some of the problems. People are beginning to wonder, is it that some persons are more Nigerian than others? Do I have a right? Can Sonny just wake up and say, I want to run for election? We saw it played out the other time. Somebody said, I want to run election. I said, no, it's not you, it's somebody else. How? I have my constitutional rights. Let me go out, you know, test my popularity. And they said, no. So back and forth here and there, adults behaving like children as if they're going to live forever. You are over 40, I've often said. When you are over 40, death can come knocking at any time. Mm-hmm. So you shouldn't be acting as though you are a toddler trying to fight over your toys, what we were doing when we were children. Okay. So I think that's basically what I see. And then if you take a critical look at the whole thing, it's like we are dancing in vicious circle, and that's basically what I can see. All right, 64 years.
Mr. Asanogwa, when people look at where we are today, reflecting on where we are coming from, they say, oh, the good is we're far better than what we have today. So does that mean that our heroes past didn't have legacies that they gave to those who succeeded them, so we can have that trajectory? Because when we look at, you know, countries in the world, we can look at their history, their trajectory, how they move from very, you know, local way of behaving, and they have metamorphosed into what they've become today.
Well, thank you, Sonny. You see, Nigeria is a very funny country. Unless until we realize the peculiarity of this country and our people, it will be difficult for us to make progress. We find a situation where in this country, things just degenerate. Things go from bad to worse. Our parents, there was a time you are a graduate, you enjoy so many things as an undergraduate. Let me not even say graduate. And when you graduate, the jobs are waiting for you. There was a time where there was free education in this country. There was a time, you know, things were, okay, let's even use the simple example of the naira to the dollar, the naira to the pounds. It just says something. There was a time we didn't know what to do with our resources. Now, there was a time somebody went to prison after leaving government house for corruption. How much was involved? that same man did not own a personal house. But today, as a councillor, the reason why people even go into politics is different from what it ought to be. Today, you ask somebody, what do you do for a living? He tells you, I'm a politician.
For confidence.
Politician. Who is a politician? You do not have any other thing that you do. You do not have any other source of livelihood. You have not, put yourself into some other form of business. You just is politician. Because come to look at it, today in this country, the fastest way to make money, to become affluent, is to be in politics. So you find that everybody is struggling to go into politics. You want to get into a position of leadership. The rationale, your motive, are they altruistic? So, and then you find that as a result of that, we've had institutions that have been so weakened. Rather than build strong institutions, we have built strong individuals. So our democracy is having a challenge. There was this skit I watched, I think it was Brain Jotter, where they said democracy, said define democracy. And the student will say government by the people, for the people, and by the people. He said according to Abraham Lincoln. I said, what are you talking about? Did you hear Abraham Adesoya there? That's America. This is Nigeria. I said, what is democracy in Nigeria? He said, the students again said, government by the people, for the people, and by the people. He said, no. He said, by some people, for some people. In Nigeria, yes. That's what it is. And the definition of that some people is people that are bastardly rich. You know, it's funny, but that is the truth. We have come to a situation where democracy in this country has been bastardized. Now we have executive that have become all powerful. We have legislature that is supposed to check the executive that have become tied to the apron strings of the executive. We have a judiciary that we can no longer fully regard as the last hope of the common man. The reputation of the judiciary that is supposed to step in to make sure and correct things, their reputation is down. Everybody now says, oh, even let's just take, for instance, we just had an election. A tribunal has been set up. Somebody will tell you, let them not go and waste time. You see, if we must get it right, we must first of all get our electoral processes right. We must get our institutions to function properly. We must get the executive to know the limits of their powers. And then we must get the legislature to wake up to their responsibility. In terms of lawmaking, the legislative arm have shirked their responsibility. They want to now do what the executive wants. Those days when you have the legislature, you have robust debates on government policies, on laws that are to be passed. It's no longer like that. The governor determines who becomes a House of Assembly member. The governor determines who becomes the speaker. And then the governor determines who the local government chairmen are. These days, it is a notorious fact that once a local government election is conducted, the government that is closest to the grassroots, it is the government in power in the state that gets 100%. Not 100% of chairmanship, 100% inclusive of the councillors, as tiny as councillors. And then you find it that they write it. And when you see, like in Edo State now, we have a PDP governor, you see an APC candidate contesting a local government election, you laugh at the person that the person is wasting his time. Why? Because we all believe that local government election is to be written by the sitting governor or the government in power. And that is what is leading to the crisis in Rivers. Because they believe that there is nothing you're going to do at the end of the day. Once elections are conducted or purportedly conducted, the result is already known. PDP will win all the chairmanship, PDP will win all the councillorship because it's a PDP governor that is in place. That cannot be right. So unless and until we appreciate this, like, look, the exec, okay, take for instance again in Edo, we have a situation where Before you become a judge, he said it is the governor that will appoint you. And so, even where the NJC has said, oh, these 8 persons have qualified to be judges in Edo State, the governor said, I won't swear you in. For 1 year, he refused. And then after some time, he said, okay, I want to swear in some. He selected 5, swore in 5 out of 8, and left 3. You see, for me, it is the danger, the ripple effect, the damage that this does to our judicial system, to our democracy. What it means is that a governor can wake up and say, look, oh, even if you have passed through the rigorous process of being appointed, the governor says, I don't like your face. And it doesn't matter the reason. It could be that, oh, when I was not yet governor, your wife insulted my wife in the market. So I will swear you in. It could be that your husband belongs to another political party. I won't swear you in. And what does that do to the psyche of our judiciary? So it means that if you want to be a judge, and for you to be a judge, you must go and kowtow to the governor. Okay. Very soon they start taking you to Okija Shrine to go and make sure that you take an oath of allegiance and loyalty before you become a judge.
Let me pause you there. I'll go back to you in a moment. Mr. Greg EI, the concerns have been majorly on the part of leadership, as far as the developmental trajectory of Nigeria is concerned, even though we know there's also the problem of followership. If we get it right, leadership-wise, would this country, move faster than it's going to? Because we have seen in other climes where leadership turned the fortunes of an entire nation around. It happened in India. Yes. It happened in Singapore and several other countries. Meanwhile, we are very quick to quote several leaders that have had the opportunity to be at different level of leadership. The Awos, the Zigs, the Tafawa Balewas, just name it, the Anthony Enahoro. So all those values and those virtues, where have they gone to? Did they die with these people?
Well, the values did not die with the people. And then the people have always been very loyal to the nation. Just as has been pointed out, our major problem is the problem of who steers the ship of states and the direction that they steer the ship of states to. I think this has been the jinx. Know that we have not had some lucid moments like during the period of Awolowo, who turned the fortunes of the then Western region around. Know that we have also not had on the regional or state level lucid moment, both in the military and civilian era, who have turned the fortunes of the states around. Professor Ambrose Ali turned the fortunes of these states around. And then President Jonathan turned the fortunes of Nigeria around to a very large extent and gave us credibility in the international community. And then some bit of rest on the home front, economic rest. And then when we are talking of the dividends of democracy, the votes of the people counting, he did not only sloganize it, he demonstrated it. And even when he had to fall in the ring fighting, it didn't matter to him. What mattered to him was that whoever wins an election should be declared as winner. So there are two major institutions that have really worried us in the last, I think, to a large extent, I believe in what the first speaker said, but I think Joseph Stanley was wrong. It is not, in Nigeria, it is not who counts the votes that determines the winner. It's who announces the votes. Because I may count the votes. Tally it. Yes.
I mean, it's so interesting. Yes. There's a variant. There's a variant.
Yes, not the
a Nigerian version of every definition. That's the point.
Because you can tally the votes, you can give me the results, and I can announce. Whatever I announce
It's binding.
then you can be told to go to courts. And that is where our former chairman, has really hit the nail on the head. If there is an airy political party, if there are airy candidates, an airy institution, the courts, being the last hope of the common man, that should actually adjudicate on conflicts and issues between individuals and between agencies and bodies. If that court becomes a repository of wisdom and then justice, then we can all sleep with our two eyes closed. But we, the person that is supposed to anchor, some of these things we are talking about, they now become even the issue. That is where I am seriously worried. Because as a lawyer, it troubles my heart that the judiciary cannot become an issue. When there were conflicts in those days and you went to court, you could be sure that the conflict will be resolved in the interest of justice. And then everyone will go home, happy. So I want to rely on what Justice Whitefield said, a former Supreme Court judge. He said a corrupt judge is more dangerous than a man with a sharp machete or machete who runs amok. That a corrupt judge is more dangerous than a man running around with a sharp cutlass and he has gone amok. So a judiciary that is corrupt, a judiciary that is afraid, a judiciary that is timid, that kind of judiciary is dangerous to the society. I think that is where we have found ourselves, and we just pray for a way out.
Let me come to Dr. Patrick Awosage. I've heard people say that the biggest challenge bedeviling Nigeria right now, amongst other forms of corruption, is electoral fraud, electoral corruption. What do you say about this?
Well, when you say that's the biggest problem, I want to a little bit differ from that, because it's like, he said, I like to cite some of them. Isn't it Fidel Castro that said, to be moral in an immoral society is immoral? You see, for you to be moral, you want to operate, you read the Bible, you try to be moral. You get into the office, the madam said, this is what you should write. And you said, no, that is against ethics. You said, no, this is what I'm telling you. If you don't do it, then you lose your job. You get back again, then you go back to God to pray for, in morality, it's not about electoral time, so to speak. Because the people that conduct the election, they are part of the system. So everyday life, it was Obasanjo that said, it's like, he said that every Nigerian is corrupt. He was making statements like that. But what I'm trying to say is this, is that we have weak institutions. It's not about being a religious person or not a religious person, an African traditional person. It's about the system, the checks and balances on what we do. No punishment for wrongdoing. Unlike those days when you are caught to have done something wrong, there's this shame and this family that they are known for. They say their father stole money when he was in government. Even the late Archbishop of blessed memory, I remember, he also said about a pastor then, and then he said, he suspended him when it was an allegation. Now the pastor within the church who was deputy governor, it was suspended before the findings or whatever he has done, that you, a pastor in this church, have comported yourself in manners like this. You are hereby suspended. But today's accolades you receive for conquering and winning the war against whatever it is, that you have money to spend. In short, it's like there's no way you can even talk about wrongdoing. So when we take it to the electoral, oh, come on, that's just an icing on the cake. That's the top of it all. Corruption have been running, and then a lot of people that said, I won't mention names, there are some, I get a lot of facts, and Somebody actually met someone who aided him into an office, speaking to some big people in government circle. And he got into the office. And then he went back to tell his godfather, Daddy, look at what happened. I saw them stealing money. And he said, what did you do? He said, I was looking at them and I said I should come and report to you. And they slapped him and said, go there and get your own. This is your own opportunity. And he went back and said, look at what I have done. I started building a house. He said, that's how to start. If your godfather is telling you that, then of course you are going to be. That's what is all going. The working ethics is now whittled down. Nobody wants to do something serious, You just line up, I'm a graduate, I can align with one big man, he can push me somewhere and start getting involved in so many stuff. I think that is where we get it all wrong. Okay. Oh. That is the problem we have as a nation and as a country. Now, if you look at it generally, ask yourself, what have I really done? I told people, I keep telling them, we're talking about the reason you have to be doing this and doing that is because you are not thinking right. You only look at it from that narrow angle that everything is at the center. Think of other things. There are people, fishermen, there are farmers, there are people that are doing things legitimately to get by. But you have to have strong morals and strong will not to deviate from that. Or else you'll be overwhelmed.
Okay, let me proceed then. But they ask a long one. Yeah. Where will that, flip come from? How is it going to come?
Well, the approach has to be multifaceted. I agree that not getting our electoral processes right is a very huge problem. Because if we talk of leadership, and a man knows that, let us even assume that you get into the system, into office through a wrong system. We've seen an example where Yaradua, upon his election, said, look, well, the election that brought me into office was flawed. That's a man who acknowledged a failed system. And he said he were going to correct it. Now, if we had continued with the Jonathan style, where as a sitting president, today the man is getting accolades world over. Because it is un-Nigerian, it is un-African for a sitting president to conduct election, you are participating in that election, and then an opposition party will defeat you. It is unheard of in this country. So until we get to that point, first of all, for instance, our electoral system is such that somebody can control it. It's an institution that is supposed to be independent. It's an institution that is supposed to come out with the truth, irrespective of who's else is God. Now, you conduct an election. The legal system is also faulty there. A situation where after an election, the law today is that it is the person who lost the election that should go to court. It is the person who lost the election that has a burden to prove that the election was flawed. And then the materials you need to prove it are in the hands of the person or the institution that you are condemning to have conducted a failed election. And then you go to court, the court says, prove.
And then you rely on.
You are going to prove, and then they tell you, oh, go to all the units, bring materials. You have 21 days from the date the election is declared to do that. And then, for me, by way of recommendation, the burden of proving that election was not properly done should be on INEC. Once an election is challenged by a candidate, let INEC come to the court and prove that the election was properly done. They have the materials. They have everything that is needed to prove that they did the election according to law and according to the rules. For as long as we begin to leave the burden to a candidate, the man runs back to INEC. Please come and give me your beavers machine. INEC says we won't give you. And the court is not fair to say you must produce them. And then there is this concept, substantial compliance. Substantial compliance in itself is an admission that the processes were not thoroughly followed. And then the court will tell you, well, there was substantial compliance and you were not able to prove. It is a flawed system. We must reverse it. A situation where now you are president, our medical institutions, they are nothing to write home about. We've been talking of power for 25 years now. We have not gone anywhere with that, irrespective of the huge sums that have been put into it. So leadership, we need that leadership to drive a process. We need leadership to drive the process. We need laws to be put in place and to be followed. Well, I also agree that substantially we have good laws. We have enough laws right now. It's just that we have bad men administering the laws. We have people and a situation where everybody in this country is looking for ways and means to circumvent the laws. We came up with an electoral law amendment of the Electoral Act just before the 2024 elections. And we talked about beavers. Oh, we welcome beavers. We talked about electronic transmission of results. Oh, it was a beautiful idea. And then they went, after that election, some people went to court. And the court said, look, well, that does not overtake, does not become superior to manual collation of results. So you find that there will be a results transmitted to INEC portal on the IREV, and the ones that will be declared physically will be different from that one. And the courts will say, well, we need not look at that one. Even when the law and the rule says that is one that should be more authentic, because it has eliminated substantially human interference. So we have a whole lot of situation where everything in this country seems to be on the reverse. We need a leadership.
Okay.
One man can do that.
Yes.
We have a situation where in some of these African countries, now Burkina Faso, Mali, there have been military interventions.
But that's not what you're recommending. That's not what you're recommending.
Sir, I'm making a point. The military leadership wanted to conduct election. The people went to demonstrate. I said, we don't need elections.
In those countries?
Yes, in those countries. Why? Because they are saying that they needed a benevolent dictator to set things right. So we need a leadership that will be honest to himself. A leadership that will be ready to take the bull by the horn. Why must our leaders at every given opportunity run abroad for medical attention? Why? And if you're able to do that, what is the morale? What is the rationale? What is the basis for you to want to have our medical system to work?
Okay. Vice Greg Hiayi, talk to me about this leadership change that is necessary to drive Nigeria's growth, whether politically, economically, socially. Some people say, well, maybe not in this generation, maybe generations and generations, and maybe generations yet unborn. Because for some analysts, those who are currently in the saddle have been so corrupted that, I mean, a society gets the kind of leadership it deserves. That's what they say. Let me get your take on this.
Well, I do not agree with that totally, because it was in this same society we have someone like Yaradua, who the problem of elections, he tackled it head on, and Jonathan continued from there. The Niger Delta problem that was hydra-headed and nearly grinding the country to a halt, he resolved it. And he resolved it, without firing the shots. And when he said it, that he was going to resolve it, people thought it was mere political talk. And I will personally receive anyone who is willing for peace. I did not only say it, he did it. And the restive Niger Delta saw people laying down their arms. So I think we can get it in our generation. Awolowo did it in his time. Can you imagine a country fighting civil war without borrowing? Nigeria never borrowed a kobo, even when we had to fight civil war. No, and you can imagine the skill in the management of the treasury. It speaks volumes. There were corrupt people in his time. There was a premier like Awolowo who built a gate for £1 million. A gate at that time for £1 million, the gate of his residence. But we also had people like Olaoyin in the Second Republic, a noted politician who was sponsored by the Kwara State government for medical treatment abroad and was given some money. And he returned about 10,800 pounds out of the money. The state governor said, no, it was given to you. He said, no, it was the people's money. And it was given to me for medical treatment. Thank God I went for the medical treatment. It cost less than was estimated. The money must go back to the coffers. Josiah Olaoyin was in Nigeria, citizen of Kwara State. So these men, they are in our midst. Was Ali not a Nigerian? During the period of financial profligacy in politics, Ali was there. At the end of the day, when Ali died, it was discovered that he did not even have a house. But the strides he made in politics, media development, education, and all that, he tested almost every case in court. He kept to the rule of law. So we have them, and I believe we should just pray that one of them will get on the seat, on the saddle, and we discover that our fortune and our direction, which I believe in what the Bible says, that there was a man sent from God, and a man sent from God can emerge. I think we should continue to pray and also work for such a man to emerge. Whether it's in the judiciary, one chief judge can turn what the mess of the judiciary around. One politician can turn. Ken Onamani was the Senate president, and in his time there was this tenure extension. Sanjo wanted to do an amendment of the Constitution that will allow, I don't believe, even 10 terms, endless terms. But Ken Onamani got together. There was corruption in the legislature. He told them that it's not about us, it's about the future of this country. The Constitution says 2 terms. If we allow an extension for 3 terms, there will be an extension for 4 terms and for limitless terms. And they stopped it. And that went to the dustbin. And all the agitation about tenure elongation stopped. Okay. And the tension in the country reduced.
Barrister Gregory Ayi, Barrister Edia Senogwa, and Dr. Osagi don't seem to agree with you that someday, somehow, the Messiah has already come, but literally that will just turn the fortunes of this country around based on some of the indices on the ground. Barrister Osagi, you want to ventilate your views on this quickly?
Well, we believe in the coming of the Messiah, but the truth, or the way it is, we cannot just sit back and believe and pray. Praying is good. You see, when you put things in a system, it's difficult to checkmate a system that is already on running. I think that's the challenge. Like, I am not advocating for a military coup d'etat. We are looking at whoever would be a leader with the kind of shenanigans around governments now, you may not be able to do much. That's why Barrister Osenokwan was saying, look, if he used the word, I think I got that right when he said, a benevolent dictator. I'm hearing that for the first time. So, but if you look at those countries, in fairness, these military guys, you cannot question them, but they have empathy, they have love for their people. We can really have these persons that will come on, waiting for that Messiah in a Nigerian situation. There are several anti-Messiahs around. So if the Messiah show up, then we just quickly get him to court or impeach him and stuff like that. I think that is a problem.
Okay, but the feeling is that the system is so skewed in such a way that that level of quality. This is my thinking. Yeah.
Yes, the system is such that that quality of Messiah that you are looking for can never emerge.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria. We have a system that suppresses meritocracy. We have a system that does not believe in quality. Now, we have a system where, like I said before, you want to be the good person. Every other person around you looks at you, and they are looking for how to get you out of the system. We have a system that does not allow the best to emerge. Poverty has been weaponized. Illiteracy has been weaponized. Ordinary protest to end bad governance, we cannot achieve it. Why? Because when the genuine people are planning that, the system and those in leadership will mobilize another set of people to just go and disrupt it. We have seen a situation where people were doing bad governance, they were carrying placards of saying, oh, we are anti the people protesting. But when you ask them, they say, oh, there is hunger in the land, everything is bad. So you were carrying a placard,
No, you don't even know what's
different, and protesting against those that are protesting for what you are complaining about. You have, we did the NSAS protest. And then what happened? They will look for a way to get people, give people money to go and disrupt the process. Now, so you see, I think that Nigerians, we must first of all agree universally on what is right and what is wrong. But a situation where, even as lawyers, we take a position. This is what the law is. I have a colleague, because of party affiliation, that will come and tell you no, and will be looking for ways and means to tell you that that's not what it is. It's funny. So you find that we have taken religion, we have taken politics, we have taken tribe. And once we begin to have these different cleavages, we have these different leanings, and then you want to look at an issue on the basis of religion, you want to look at an issue on the basis of party politics, we can never get it right.
Okay.
The truth ought to remain the truth. What is right ought to remain what is right.
Irrespective of whose ox is
irrespective of, yes, who is saying it, where it's coming from.
Okay.
And until Nigerians come to that realization, we will not be able, because can two work together unless they agree? If we do not agree that, okay, for instance, there is an election that has been concluded. If we do not all agree that, no, this thing, there was something wrong with it, because there was something actually wrong with it, then how do we correct it? Well, I'm saying there is something wrong with it. Because your candidate was declared, you say, no, that's the best thing. And some people justify and say, look, yes, we just talked about local government elections. Oh, you are a governor, you did local government election, it was 100%. Why should you cry now when you say the federal Met has come in? Does that justify? Must we continue like that? We must understand this. So people are applauding it. Oh, it's good, it's good. Even there must be rigging. That if you cannot stomach rigging, then you don't have any business being in politics.
Okay, let's
That's
get
the kind of country we are in.
Let's get our studio line open. 080-7777-0300. That's our studio number. You can dial it right now and be part of the conversation. 080-7777-0300. Good morning, caller. Tell us your name and where you're calling on from. Good morning. All right, go ahead, please. All right, thank you for your contribution. 080-7777-0300. Good morning, caller. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Good morning. My name is OJ. I'm calling from Uchapuru.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you see, first of all, let me thank our father there, and those great, wonderful fine you and all that. Even in my university days, the same thing. But now, you find out that the police will tell you, if you agree, if you don't agree, go to court. And now we are no longer afraid of court because what you get from there is not what you expect. And therefore, what you are not afraid of is the money. If you have the money, you go to court to get your judgment. Politicians can do anything. Anybody can do anything. But if the judiciary is fair, and you know that when this man commits an offense against you, you go to court and get justice. Don't be afraid. In 80s and 90s, nobody tells you to go to court. But it's become apparent now for the last 2 years now, any issue they go to court. Because they have made a mess of court. You can rob, you can correct, you can do anything. But what you be afraid of is that you shouldn't go to court. But now, court has become, the position has made mockery of the judiciary to the point that they will not tell you that I go to court. So, this idea of court is the last of the common man should be reversed. It's no longer the last of the common man. Court is the last hope of those who have the money. So my issue appeal is that let the judiciary wake up and free this country. Free this country. They may work and free this country. And when it become like that, all this nonsense will stop. Because in the developed country, you don't necessarily go to court.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. We appreciate your contributions. Our studio line is still open: 08077770300. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Be brief because there are others waiting on the line. Hello, caller. Good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Good morning.
Good morning, Sonny Duke.
Good morning, sir.
Venerable Professor Ben Agide from Epoma.
Ah, Prof, good to hear from you. Wow.
And I've not been hearing from you again all this while.
Yes, the road has been in a parlous state, and we are concerned about your safety.
Trouble with Nigeria we're talking about.
Of course.
You see, my take on this really is, I want to speak very briefly on the system we are practicing.
Okay.
The so-called democratic dispensation we are into. You see, look at the executive, for instance. The executive is so weary. You know, where you have a president who's in charge of all the military, the police, that are always there at his own dispensation. He calls them to order. It's a very wrong system. In fact, according to the late Chino Achebe, in one of his books, which he called The Trouble with Nigeria, said everything, is circled around leadership. And then when you have very bad leadership, coupled with weak institutions, there are going to be problems. And another writer, John Maxwell, he also says that everything rises and falls with leadership. We are yet to correct the problem of wrong or evil leadership in this country. And as long as we continue with that dispensation, things are not going to move fine. So I pray that people who actually want to serve their own people, they are those who have the people in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, the erudite Professor Ben Agede. Thank you very much. I'm sure with technology now, we can always have you into this program. Thank you very much, Prof. We really appreciate this contribution. Thank you. Okay, now just before we call it a wrap, with just some few minutes, the situation in the River State is boiling. We don't know exactly what is happening. The governor had threatened to go ahead with the election, but I'm concerned because this is like a recurrent decimal. Let me get to take on this, Awosage. 1 minute.
Like we said, when institutions are weakened down, you have strong men in place. And, there's one thing about leadership in this climb. When you leave office, you don't want to, I don't know if you left something there, you want to still go back there to check.
Probably forgot something there.
To check what's going on. You've been governor before. I'm talking about, Wike, the current minister of FCT, and this running battle with your former commissioner and friend and the one you supported to be governor. I just feel he should a little bit be mind and consider the states where he belonged to and where he had come from, and to ensure that the people are in not put into turmoil and trouble. I think that's basically Fubara. Similar Fubara is a gentleman for him to start speaking like this. We saw all the activities of impeachment that were, pushed aside, now snowballing to elections. Come on, elections should be conducted.
Okay.
And then I think...
All right, that's the news flash now. Explosion rocks Tony Okocha-led Rivers APC Secretariat as LG poll hosts. I mean, this is the character and nature of Rivers State. Bryster, LDS on Hong Kong.
Well, the Rivers State case is an example. The local government elections we hold really or hold in quotes. It must hold. Results will be declared. And I can tell you here what the results will be. PDP will win all the local government,
all the
chairmanship,
councillorship,
and they will win all
every
the
elected
position. Every elected position that is going to hold to the PDP will win it, whether they like it or not. Now, that is part of the problem. Now, you see, just two individuals, a former governor and a present governor, have turned Rivers State into a turmoil. Yeson Wike is probably serving third term as governor, but this time not of Rivers, but of the FCT. Because as minister of the FCT,
you are the governor of FCT.
Yeah, you are like a governor in the FCT. And then you are bringing all of that weight back into your state, not for development, but for crisis.
Okay.
And the president is quiet.
Okay, let me get Mr. Greg, final word on this.
Yes. I think elections should be about policies and not about personalities. And I want people to know that when you lose an election, it doesn't mean you have lost your life. Fayemi Kayode lost election as the APC governor of Ondo State. And Kayode Fayemi was told by the APC that he should go to the tribunal. He said, I'm not going. I know that I lost fair and square. APC said, we will go to the tribunal. He said, if you go, I won't testify because I won't testify against the truth. Fayose defeated me fair and square. And that is it. So it's not a do or die.
All right, that's so much time will permit us on the program today. Politics Today on independent television and radio. We hope you had a great time with us. Be sure to join us next week, Saturday. But the responsibility of putting Nigeria on the trajectory of peace, development, and sustainability is our collective responsibility. But those who have the opportunity to be in position of leadership at whatever level, think right, act right. For posterity will judge you for what you do not do right today. And in any case, we are seeing what leadership, the kind of leadership that we have, has brought to bear on the country. For every standard definition, as far as democratic practice is concerned, there is a Nigerian version, and it's always not good, and it's always not palatable. I hope we will learn from some of the realities we see today and make a difference in our own small little way, just for us to move Nigeria forward.
Yes.
At 64, there is really nothing to cheer about. I mean, there were days that we go to stadium, to do match pass, celebrate, and all of that. But you saw in this year's edition, and in several years gone by, it's just Mr. President and the ministers and whatever that had a small celebration at the Aso Rock Villa, not even at the Eagle Square. That tells you where we are right now. That's my sign out on the show today. Thank you for staying with us. Have a great weekend and bye for now.